It began as these things often do, with a whisper, a faint blip on a monitor, a reading that was just a little bit out of the ordinary. In late September 2017, monitoring stations across Europe began to detect the presence of Ruthenium-106 in the air. Ru-106 is a radioactive isotope, a byproduct of nuclear fission. It's not something you'd expect to find wafting about in the breeze. The first alarm bells were sounded in Switzerland. The Swiss Federal Office of Public Health picked up on the elevated levels of Ru-106 on September 25th. It wasn't long before other countries followed suit. By early October, reports were coming in from Austria, Norway, Greece, Germany, Finland, and Slovenia. The air, it seemed, was carrying a secret. The levels of Ru-106 were low, far below anything that would pose an immediate threat to human health. But the very presence of this radioactive isotope was deeply unsettling. Ru-106 doesn't occur naturally, it has to come from somewhere, and the list of potential sources was short and troubling. As scientists across Europe scrambled to identify the source of the mysterious radioactive cloud, one name kept cropping up: Mayak. Located in the southern Urals of Russia, the Mayak facility has a long and troubled history, shrouded in secrecy and marred by accidents. Could this be the source of the Ru-106? And if so, what did it mean for the people living in the shadow of this secretive facility? As the invisible cloud of Ru-106 drifted silently across Europe, a sense of unease began to spread with it. This wasn't Chernobyl, not by a long shot, but it was a stark reminder of the invisible dangers that could be carried on the wind, crossing borders and defying national boundaries. The French Institute of Radio Protection and Nuclear Safety was closely monitoring the situation. Their analysis painted a clearer picture of the cloud's movements. It appeared to have originated somewhere in the southern Urals region of Russia, before spreading westward across Europe. The highest concentrations were detected in early October, gradually decreasing over the following days. By mid-October, the cloud had largely dispersed, the levels of Ru-106 falling below the detection limits of most monitoring stations. The European public, accustomed to hearing about radioactive dangers from decades past, grew anxious. Governments, eager to avoid panic, were quick to reassure their citizens. The levels of Ru-106 detected, they stressed, were far below any level that could pose a direct threat to human health. Life went on as it always does, but the questions lingered. Where had this radioactive material come from? What had happened, and why hadn't anyone come forward to claim responsibility? To understand the significance of the Ru-106 detection, one must delve into the intricacies of this radioactive isotope. Ru-106 is not a naturally occurring element. It is a fission product born from the splitting of uranium or plutonium atoms within a nuclear reactor. It has a half-life of 373.6 days, meaning that half of its radioactivity decays away in that time. While Ru-106 itself doesn't easily become airborne, its presence in the atmosphere hinted at something more sinister. The most likely culprit was ruthenium tetroxide, a highly volatile compound. RuO4 can form under specific conditions during the reprocessing of spent nuclear fuel. Reprocessing, the very word sends shivers down the spines of those familiar with the nuclear industry. It is a complex and potentially dangerous process, one that involves separating plutonium and uranium from spent nuclear fuel so they can be reused. And it is a process that produces a cocktail of radioactive waste products, including Ru-106. One particular reprocessing method, known as Purex, stood out. This method, widely used in the nuclear industry, involves dissolving spent fuel in nitric acid and then separating the desired elements using a solvent extraction process. It is during this process that Ru-106, if not carefully controlled, can escape into the environment, often in the form of volatile RuO4. The presence of Ru-106 in the European air then pointed to a release, accidental or otherwise, during a spent fuel reprocessing operation, and all eyes were on Russia, home to the Mayak facility, a notorious reprocessing plant with a history of secrecy and accidents.